right when I was born, airborne, 101st Screaming Eagles. Combat support, 9th Division, what else? The Ranger Battalion, Rangers out there in North Fort, Pyeontaek, Weejambu, Kempo. What was that other place? We used to get the soju and the makgeolli at. Sangachi. Right. That's where we was at. So then we go from there. We was in Seattle, we was in Tacoma, Texas, San Antonio, San Marcos, Austin, Fort Sam Houston, Dallas. Okay, then we was in Key West, Navy's in Key West. And we was in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. That was Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, right? Where else was we? We did Fort Dix, but mostly National Guard when we did Fort Dix. That's pretty much. Atlanta, Georgia. Columbus, right? We was in Columbus, Fort Bragg, and then Fort Benning, and then Kentucky, and then Seattle. That would be the next good hit for our unit. Airborne medics. Then switch to 9th Division, right? Switch to 9th Division and end up in Korea. Suwon. Right, so I said all that to say that Allah told us to get a trade or a profession. And we observed the fact that he was in the Korean War. And we also knew he taught Twa, martial arts that he invented. And then, which made us deal with Taekwondo, Hapkido, Shan Rouge, and then eventually we ended up going into Wing Chun. Right, we didn't know what Bruce Lee was doing. We just knew he was doing some kind of martial arts. We didn't know it was Wing Chun. We didn't even know who Yip Man was in those days. We would have took anything. The easiest classes that were around us in those days was Taekwondo. Everybody was taking Taekwondo. A lot of kicks. To this day, I use those Taekwondo kicks because they're like really, it's a kicking art. It's not really a hand-to-hand. The close quarter combat training, that's Wing Chun. At least for our group anyway, right? So I said that to say, like I said, the father said, get a trade or a profession. From there you make your moves, right? You would have already had 120 under your belt, right? So if you think about it, when you go to college, universities, you get 120 credits. That's your BA. 120 credits. Sometimes 128, sometimes 122, sometimes 119. Depends on what university or college you went to, right? Then you won't go 2 more years to go for your master's, right? Which is really just another 65 credits. I know people that did it in quicker because they did 6 classes. They was taking 6 and 5 classes, full load 3. But anyway, I said all that to say that when you study in 120, that's what you're supposed to be doing. If you go on a course, that's why they tell you need an enlightener. Because an enlightener is not only going to make you quote your lessons, but once you quote the lessons, they're going to always be telling you what books to read that correlate with the lesson that you know and understand. They're going to also give you the plus degrees that correlate with the lessons. So you have a broader understanding, like the 600-year process. You need to understand. See, if we understand Yakub, it's easier for us to break away from the double civilization without falling victim to the double civilization. It's hard to break away when you don't even know what you're breaking away from, right? You be thinking, well, we free now, so we broke away, right? Yeah. Well, you got to figure he had you in captivity from 1555 to 1865. See how they gave you the wrong dates? And then from 1865 to 1965, he terrorized you. He was a terrorist, right? Doing any and everything he could do, psychological, physical, family. He just went bananas on us all the way to 65. And then from 1965 to about 1972, he was mastering prison complex system by using drugs and this and that and the third, gang war, blah, 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 right? His main reason for taking the physical composition of the physical father out from the 5% was because 120 and the way the guards received it made all the gangs would have made all the gangs in America 5%ers, our warriors. That's what would have happened, and the colonizer saw that, so he said, you know what, let me step this COINTELPRO up. So that just shows you right there the type of work we need. The youth are supposed to know and understand the 1 to 10, 1 to 36, 1 to 14, 1 to 40, that's all of that. That is our history. That when you know and understand your past, you can deal with your future, right? So to understand student enrollment, 1 to 36, 1 to 14, 1 to 40, that's all of that, right? To understand that you need your mathematics and your alphabet, you gotta have that, because the math and the alphabet puts everything in its proper perspective, like the God said, good orderly direction, right? That's what you're looking at. It's all good, just word play. They're using word play, and we got the answer to their word play. It's almost the same when you knew about Webster's dictionary and Oxford dictionary, and then you found out about the Black's Law dictionary. That changed the whole world, right? The same way when you found out about a metaphysical dictionary, when you found out about a medical dictionary. So you have to have these type of things in your arsenal. So you want to know anatomy and physiology, so you need, how you studying what was Yaku's first rules and regulations, including all laws enforced on manufacturing the devil, and you don't know and understand anatomy and physiology, DNA, RNA, the genetic makeup, the bone marrow, understanding the yellow and the brown bone marrow. What? You don't know that? That's what you need to be studying. Study about cells, with mitochondria, right? How the liver works. You need to know these things, and then you wouldn't do certain things once you would know these things. Like understanding the science behind lungs would make you not deal with CI germs. Understanding the science behind the circulatory system will tell you, don't bother with the CI germs. That's what the colonizer wants you to do. Remember, he's a drug dealer. He's been a drug dealer. He's been selling tobacco, sugar, opium, coca leaf. He's been doing that. That is nothing new. That's how he make his money. The drug dealer. Get you on drugs and then sell them to you. That's what he really is, a drug dealer. So he don't want nobody else selling no drugs, right? That's why so many drugs in our country. You know why drugs is in this country? Drugs is in this country because this country used drugs to come up. Sugar is a drug. Tobacco is a drug. Cocaine is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. Cigarettes, that's drugs. So when you got knowledge yourself, see, one thing about getting 120 lessons from the God is the rules and regulations, you know them, but they're still on you. Nobody's telling you what you have to do or don't do. That's why it's easy to go wrong even when you got the lessons, because there's no group following, telling you do this or you don't do that because you the sole controller of your universe. They gonna leave it on you. You got the lessons. What happened? Oh, you fell victim to double civilization, even though you knew and understand 120 lessons. That don't even sound right in that. So you let the motor vehicle light that use the physical plane of existence to control you instead of you controlling the physical composition. That's pretty much what went down, right? So now we know that the guards from like the 60s and the 70s, they came straight out the banging group. They was bangers. And they taught us, but they didn't teach us that part. They taught us the part that Allah told them to give us. That's why we all went to universities, colleges, and got trades and professions. All that group, the 80s and stuff. If they fell victim, that wasn't because they wasn't getting taught not to fall victim. They fell victim because they just fell victim, or they would already fell victim and got it after they had already fallen victim. That was happening too, right? People was getting knowledge of self, but they had already fallen victim and now they got it. And then you had people who got knowledge of self when they was so young and then they fell victim because they didn't lead the street. If you look at the Father, the way the Father gave us the lessons, you won't stay in the street. Because your mind will be saying, I better go get a trade or a profession, or being 33 and a third, meaning A and D, right? That's what I'm talking about. So, like I said, we still on Yakub, right? So this should be the last one on Yakub, because Yakub is so important for you to understand. It makes you make the right move. You're not going to make the right move if you don't bear witness that Yakub was a real person. You're going to think, well, that's just allegorical. No, how is that allegorical? Your ass getting twisted ain't allegorical. Right? Pause. You getting smashed into oblivion. Okay. Let's look at Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, and then go to George Floyd. That's like 3 major age groups that they be coming for. Right? Now you telling me he's not the second degree in the 1 to 10? That he's not wisdom builder 3 degree in the 1 to 40? Oh, because I'm saying, I know you ain't trying to act like that ain't real. Man, listen. Sodom and Gomorrah is realer than a motherfucker. So like I said, the God said this, that, and the third. And I said, dude, let me explain something to you. The only reason why they mad at you, this is my word is born, is because they love the alphabet group, LBGT, LMNOPQRST. They like them. And they want to be down with that, and they don't like the fact that you say it's not right and exact. Now, inside of your gut, you saying they ain't right and exact, but it don't twist you up the same way as it twists them up who are doing that it's not right and exact. They want everybody to accept it as if it's right and exact. Why are you pushing it to be right and exact if it's because you know it's not right and exact, and so you want everybody to team up with you and say it's right and exact? That's all. But one thing you can say about, they be going, oh yeah, this, that, and the third, yada, 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 that's religion. Yeah, it is. And it's religious way of who you got it presented to you. But if you go all the way back to the Ethiopian Bible, it speaks about Sodom and Gomorrah. It says Sodom and Gomorrah is not right and exact. And if you look at the fall of a nation, the ancient texts that tell you a nation falling, what it does first. We as a country are doing everything it says that you do when your country's falling victim to the double civilization. Man, if we ain't falling victim to it, we the head leaders of it. And the shit's coming back to haunt us like the chickens come home to roost. And I'm divine understanding, born of law. You know how we do it. Set the record straight, 1803, 87. Peace.